I spent $32,000 on a family reunion. Booked a beautiful resort outside Austin, flew in from Seattle, and took 2 weeks off work. When I pulled into that parking lot on Saturday afternoon, not a single car was there. The lobby stood completely empty. I called my mom. She laughed and they said the reunion was yesterday. Gerald thought the 14th worked better for everyone. She would bring me leftovers. I stood in that empty lobby, phone in hand, and could not say a single word. Before we continue, let me know where you are watching from today. Hit that like button and subscribe if you have not already. What would you do if your own family threw a party with your money and forgot to invite you? Stay with me because what happened the next morning changed everything. My name is Sadie. I am 34 years old and I work as a software engineer in Seattle. But I grew up in a small town outside Houston, Texas, in a house that smelled like motor oil and my father's aftershave. Dad owned a small auto repair shop. Nothing fancy, just an honest business built by honest hands. He died when I was 19 and everything changed after that. My mother, Eleanor, remarried 2 years later. A man named Gerald moved into our house, into my father's bedroom, and started calling himself the head of the family. I have 3 siblings. Derek is the oldest. Then there is me. Then Heather and Brandon, the younger ones. I was the only one who went to college. I worked 3 part-time jobs to pay my tuition, stayed up until 2 in the morning studying, and graduated with honors in computer science. Nobody from my family came to my graduation. Mom called the night before and said Gerald's back was acting up. They could not make it. But congratulations, honey. That was the first time I realized something was broken. But I kept pretending it was not. When I got my first real job in Seattle, I started sending money home. It began small, a few $100s here and there when Mom said the electricity bill was overdue. Then Derek needed $20,000 to open a car wash. He never paid it back. Never even mentioned it again. Heather needed tuition money. Brandon crashed his motorcycle and someone had to cover the hospital bills. The roof needed fixing. Gerald's truck broke down. There was always something. Over 12 years, I sent home more than $200,000. I kept a spreadsheet once, then deleted it because the numbers made me sick. And what did I get in return? Phone calls only when they needed something. A wedding invitation for my own sister that arrived a week after the wedding was over. And jokes from Gerald about how I was the one who forgot where I came from. So, when I decided to plan this reunion, I told myself it would be different. I would bring everyone together. I would remind them that I was still part of this family. I booked the resort 3 months in advance. 18 rooms for 18 people. A barbecue dinner on the first night. Team building activities for the kids. A formal dinner on the second evening. I sent my mother a detailed email with the schedule. Saturday the 15th. Everything was confirmed. She replied with 2 words. Sounds good. Derek did not reply at all. Heather sent a thumbs-up emoji. That was it. I told myself they were just busy, that they would show up, that this time would be different. When I landed in Austin on Friday night, I felt something I had not felt in years. Hope. I rented a car, checked into a hotel near the airport, and spent the evening imagining how it would feel to see everyone together again. Maybe Derek and I would finally talk about that money. Maybe Mom would actually say she was proud of me. Maybe I would finally feel like I belonged. Saturday morning, I woke up early, put on a nice shirt, drove an hour and a half to the resort with the windows down, letting the Texas heat remind me of home. When I turned into the entrance, the first thing I noticed was the silence. No cars in the lot, no kids running around, no sound of family laughter. I walked into the lobby. A young woman at the front desk looked up and smiled politely. I am here for the Robinson reunion, I said. Her smile flickered. Sir, that event was yesterday. Everyone checked out this morning. I stood there for a moment, trying to process what she had just said. That was impossible. I had the date right. I double-checked before I left Seattle. I pulled out my phone and opened my email. Saturday the 15th, right there in black and white. I called my mother. She answered after 5 rings. I could hear laughter in the background. Voices I recognized. The sound of a party winding down. Oh, Sadie, she said, her voice light and cheerful. You just got there. We did it yesterday. Gerald said Saturday the 14th made more sense for everyone. I told her the date was the 15th. I sent her the schedule. Honey, you know how these things are. Plans change. We tried to call you, but you know how bad the signal is out here. I looked at my phone. No missed calls, not one. Anyway, she continued, it was wonderful. The kids had so much fun. We will bring you some leftovers tomorrow if you want. Derek took the brisket home, but there is still some potato salad. Then I heard Gerald's voice in the background, loud and mocking. Tell him we saved him a plate. Then laughter. A lot of laughter. I hung up without saying goodbye. I stood in that empty lobby for a long time, staring at the chairs stacked neatly against the wall, the tables cleared and cleaned, the remnants of something I had paid for, but never got to see. The woman at the front desk watched me with pity in her eyes. I could not blame her. I probably looked like a man who had just been punched in the stomach. I walked outside and sat on the front steps. The sun was setting over the Texas hills, painting the sky orange and pink. It was beautiful, and I had never felt more alone. That night, I checked into a small motel about 10 miles from the resort. The room smelled like old carpet and air freshener. I lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling, counting the stains, trying not to think about everything that had just happened. But memories do not ask permission. They just come. I thought about my college graduation, standing in that auditorium in my cap and gown, watching other families take pictures, hug each other, cry with pride. I walked across that stage alone, picked up my diploma alone, ate dinner at a fast food restaurant alone because I could not afford anything else after paying for everything myself. I thought about my father's death. The funeral was small. Mom handled everything quickly, said there was no money for anything bigger. I believed her. I was 19 and grieving, and I believed everything she told me. She said the auto shop had to be sold to pay Dad's medical bills. The house needed to stay in her name so she would have somewhere to live. There was a will, she said, but it did not matter anymore because there was nothing left to inherit. I never asked to see the paperwork. I trusted her. She was my mother. I thought about Heather's wedding, the one I paid $20,000 for. The invitation that arrived a week too late. Sorry the invitations got mixed up. But thank you for the money. The wedding was beautiful. Every memory was the same. Me giving, them taking, me hoping, them forgetting. My phone buzzed. It was my wife Meredith calling from Seattle. How did it go, she asked. I told her, all of it. The empty parking lot, the phone call, Gerald's laughter, the potato salad. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that changed everything. Sadie, I need to tell you something. I was not sure before, but now I think you should know. 3 months ago, when I transferred money to pay the deposit for the resort, Meredith noticed something strange. An email had come through our shared account. It was from Derek to Eleanor, and it had an attachment. The subject line read, Dad's shop papers. Meredith saved the email because it seemed odd, but she did not want to upset me without knowing more. Now she sent it to me. I opened the attachment. It was a scanned copy of the sale documents for my father's auto repair shop. The date on the paperwork was 6 months after my father died. The seller signature belonged to Eleanor Robinson. The sale price was $180,000. I had never seen this document before. I had never received a single dollar from this sale. I sat up in bed, my hands shaking. I called a friend from high school named Tommy, who worked in real estate. I asked him to look up the property records for my childhood home. He called me back an hour later. Sadie, that house was sold 3 years ago. It is listed under a different owner now. Sale price was $220,000. My mother told me she still lived there. She talked about the garden and the leaky faucet and the neighbors. She lied about all of it. I spent the rest of the night digging. I contacted my father's old bank and requested account statements from the time of his death. It took some convincing, but they finally sent them. 2 weeks after my father passed, someone withdrew the entire balance from his account, $37,000. The person who made the withdrawal was Eleanor. I added up the numbers. The auto shop, $180,000. The house, $220,000. The bank account, $37,000. Total. More than $400,000. Divided by 4 children, my share should have been over $100,000. I never got a cent. Instead, I spent 12 years sending money back to a family that had already stolen everything my father left for me. I called a lawyer the next morning. Her name was Patricia Dunn, and she specialized in inheritance disputes. I told her everything. She asked me to send her all the documents. She called me back 2 hours later. Mr. Robinson, she said what you are describing is inheritance fraud, possibly forgery. The sale of estate property without notifying legal heirs is a serious crime in Texas. And if there are documents with your signature that you did not sign, that adds another layer of criminal liability. I asked her what I should do. She said I had 2 choices: walk away and cut ties forever, or pursue justice and let the legal system handle it. I thought about my father. A man who worked 60-hour weeks to build something for his children. A man who wrote a will because he wanted us to be taken care of. A man whose final wishes had been erased by the people who were supposed to love him most. I made my decision. Sunday morning, I drove to the local police station. The building was small, tucked between a hardware store and a taco shop. Inside, I asked to speak with someone from the financial crimes unit. They connected me with a detective named Marcus Webb. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen too many lies to be fooled by anymore. I sat across from his desk and told him everything. The reunion that happened without me, the money I had sent over the years, the documents I had found, the signatures that were not mine. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "Mr. Robinson," he said, "this looks like a clear case of inheritance fraud and possibly forgery. I will need to bring in our financial crimes unit. Can you provide all the documentation?" I handed him a folder with everything. Printouts of the emails, bank statements, sale records, my father's original will, which I had found in a box in my Seattle apartment, something my father had given me years ago that I never thought to look at until now. Detective Webb flipped through the pages. His expression grew darker with each one. "There are also documents here with signatures claiming you waived your inheritance rights. Did you sign these?" I told him no. I had never seen those papers before in my life. He nodded slowly. "We will need to get these analyzed. If the signatures are forged, that is a felony." The investigation moved faster than I expected. By Sunday afternoon, the Financial Crimes Unit had opened an official case. They subpoenaed bank records, property records, and any documents related to my father's estate. What they found confirmed everything I suspected and more. My mother and Derek had planned this together. 3 months after my father's death, they forged documents showing that I had waived my inheritance rights. They sold the auto shop and split the money. 3 years ago, they sold the family home and used the cash to buy a new house in the suburbs, paid in full, no mortgage. Gerald was involved too. His name appeared on several transactions. He had helped move money between accounts to hide the trail. And my siblings, Heather and Brandon, they might not have participated directly, but they had benefited. Heather received $50,000 as a wedding gift from our mother. Brandon bought a new car with cash around the same time the house sold. They knew, maybe not everything, but enough. Sunday evening, Detective Webb called me. "We have enough to move forward," he said. "We are issuing arrest warrants tonight." I asked if I could be there when it happened. He paused, then said yes. Monday morning, I sat in the passenger seat of Detective Webb's unmarked car. We drove through the suburbs until we reached a nice house with a green lawn and a 2-car garage. The house my mother bought with my father's money. The house I had never been invited to. 2 police cruisers pulled up behind us. Officers stepped out, adjusted their belts, walked up the path. Detective Webb knocked on the door. My mother answered in her bathrobe. Her hair was messy, her face soft with sleep. When she saw the badge, her expression froze. When she saw the officers behind him, the color drained from her face. "Eleanor Robinson," Detective Webb said, "you are under arrest for inheritance fraud, forgery, and theft of estate assets. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." They put her in handcuffs. She stumbled as they led her down the steps. And then she saw me standing across the street. Her eyes went wide. Her mouth opened, but no words came out at first. Then she screamed, "Sadie, how could you do this to your own mother?" I did not answer. I just looked at her. Really looked at her, maybe for the first time in my life. And I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness. Just a cold, quiet emptiness where love used to be. They arrested Derek at his house an hour later. His wife stood on the porch crying, asking what was happening. Gerald went without a fight. He actually looked relieved, like he had been waiting for this moment for years. Heather called me that afternoon. She was sobbing. "Sadie, please, I did not know everything. I swear. Please drop the charges. Do not do this to our family." I listened to her cry for a while. Then I hung up. Brandon sent me a long text message. He blamed me for destroying the family. He said I was selfish. He said Dad would be ashamed of me. I read it once, then deleted it. The trial took 4 months. My mother and Derek both pleaded not guilty at first, but the evidence was overwhelming. Forged signatures, bank records, property transfers, a paper trail that led straight to their front doors. Gerald flipped. He testified against Eleanor and Derek in exchange for a reduced sentence. He told the court everything. How Eleanor had cried about money problems while hiding hundreds of thousands in cash. How Derek had practiced copying my signature until he got it right. How they laughed about the dumb one in Seattle who kept sending checks. The jury deliberated for 2 days. Guilty on all counts. Eleanor was sentenced to 3 years in prison and 5 years probation. Derek got 2 years and 3 years probation. The court ordered full restitution. Every dollar they stole would be paid back to me. I flew back to Seattle the day after the sentencing. Meredith picked me up at the airport. She did not ask how I was feeling. She just held my hand the whole drive home. The first few weeks were strange. I kept waiting to feel something. Satisfaction, relief, victory. But there was just this hollow space inside me, like a room that had been emptied of furniture. I started seeing a therapist. A woman named Dr. Patterson who had kind eyes and never rushed me. In our first session, she asked me what I had lost. I thought about it for a long time before answering. I did not lose money, I said. I lost the idea that my family loved me. She nodded like she understood exactly what I meant. We worked together for months. I learned how to grieve not just my father, but the mother I thought I had, the siblings I thought I knew. I learned that family is not just blood. Family is the people who show up, who care, who give without expecting anything in return. I used part of the restitution money to start a scholarship fund in my father's name. It helps kids from working-class families in Houston pay for trade school or college. The first recipient was a young man who wanted to be a mechanic just like my dad. When I handed him the check, he cried. That was the first time I felt something good in a long time. 2 years after the trial, I went back to Texas. Not to see my mother. She was still in prison and I had no desire to visit. I went to see the place where my father's shop used to be. It was a bakery now, a small, cheerful place with flowers in the window boxes. I stood outside for a while just looking. A woman walked by and stopped next to me. She was old with white hair and a gentle face. It took me a moment to recognize her. Mrs. Ruth. She had been our neighbor when I was a kid. Sadie, she said, is that you? We talked for an hour. She told me stories about my father that I had never heard. How he used to fix her car for free because her husband was sick. How he would shovel her driveway in the winter without being asked. How he talked about me all the time. Your father was so proud of you, she said. He told everyone about his son who was going to college, the one who was going to make something of himself. I asked her about the end, about his last days. He changed his will right before he passed, she said. Wanted to make sure you kids got everything equal. He trusted you, Sadie. He said you would do the right thing with it. I stood there on that sidewalk in front of the bakery that used to be my father's dream, and I finally let myself cry. I am not angry anymore. Not at my mother, not at Derek, not at any of them. Anger is a weight, and I carried it long enough. What they did was wrong, and they paid for it. But holding on to hatred would only poison my own life. Now, I have something better. I have Meredith. I have friends who became family. I have a life I built with my own hands just like my father built his. And I have peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you stood up for yourself, for the truth, for the memory of someone who deserved better. Sometimes the family you are born into teaches you exactly what kind of family you want to build, not through their love, but through their absence of it. And if you are out there right now carrying the weight of people who only see you when they need something, I want you to know this. It is okay to put that weight down. It is okay to walk away. It is okay to let the truth speak for itself. Because in the end, the people who truly love you will never make you feel like you have to earn their presence in your life. So let me ask you this. Have you ever had to stand up against someone you love to protect yourself? Have you ever had to choose between peace and family? I would love to hear your story in the comments below. If this story touched you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next one. And share this video with someone who might need to hear it today. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for listening. I hope wherever you are, you have people in your life who show up for you, who love you without conditions, and who never make you stand alone in an empty room wondering why you were not enough. Take care of yourselves. And remember, your worth is not measured by what you give to others. It is measured by how you honor your own heart. Until next time,